3 days. So we bring that to you right here on News Now from Fox. Hi, everyone. Mike Page here. Thank you so much for joining us here today on what is setting up to be another busy day here on the News Now desk. Of course, in about 30 minutes, we'll take you out to the Capitol, where we will have day 2 of the impeachment trial of the former president, Donald J. Trump. We'll be featuring that for you as long as we have that hearing. So that trial going on, and we'll bring it to you in full. But really, what led up to this impeachment hearing had a lot to do with January 6th, on that insurrection, on that day on the Capitol, where so many just sad sights were happening, sad sounds and sights, really, that happened inside and outside the Capitol. Well, today, our sister station, Fox 5 in D.C., premiering a new podcast. It's called Siege on Democracy, and it just dropped today. And we're going to be getting some great insight on just how this all came about and what the first episode features. We bring in now Lindsay Watts from Fox 5 D.C. Thank you so much for joining us here today on News Now from Fox. And Lindsay, this is a great idea.
On January 6th was so incredible. And in talking to my coworkers, nobody has experienced anything like this. And you know, you have people like me who've been at this maybe 13 years or around that time range, but we're talking about photographers who have been doing this for 40 plus years, and were just stunned by what they saw out there and said that they've never seen anything like this.
And what were some of the things that really stick away from the reporters and the photographers there that were at the scene?
So I was out there, but I got there a little later. I report at night. So it was really our crews that were first to be out there earlier in the afternoon. And you're seeing some of this video. I actually didn't know what my coworkers went through. I hadn't heard the specifics until I interviewed them for this first episode of the podcast. But this particular crew, Doug Wilkes, you see people surrounding him there. I mean, they were kicking him. Someone ripped off his mask. People were calling him and his reporter traitors, telling them to get out of the country. I mean, it was just so ugly. And, you know, talking to him, he was scared. And he said he's just never felt like that on the job before. He was talking about how he was in Baghdad when they were dropping missiles, and it still did not compare to that feeling of helplessness being out there. They had 2 security guards who were also kind of taking hits, but clearly they were outnumbered. And it was, you know, in that moment, they were just hoping that this crowd didn't decide to really do something, to really get violent with them. And it was emotional for me talking to the coworkers. You know, there's another photographer who's by himself. He wasn't even with his security yet. And there were guys just surrounding him, telling him that they were gonna crack his head. I mean, like, just thinking about what could have happened, you know, you can't help but get emotional, especially talking to your friends and just knowing what they were dealing with out there. I mean, threats of violence and people, you know, telling him that he had no place in the city where he lives. And so it definitely was an emotional undertaking, I think, to really get a full picture and understanding of what all of our crews went through.
Sure. And I want to get your thoughts on what did you think about when you saw the hearing yesterday and the House managers really showcasing this edited video of really the timeline of what happened on January 6th. When you were watching that video, what was going on through your head?
It was incredible. And I think a lot of that video I had seen, but put together in that way it was heartbreaking. It was absolutely horrible. You know, we had another reporter who was inside the Capitol as this was happening. He had to barricade in a closet in the basement, this small little space. He didn't know what was going on. He was doing live reports from there. But you know, to really kind of see that all put together and see what lawmakers went through as well. It honestly is what this first episode of the podcast is doing as well. We kind of put our personal timeline together to look at this day through the way we experienced it, with those same kind of, you know, natural sound and sound from videos like what was in that impeachment video. But I mean, wow, it really just took your breath away to see all of that.
Oh, sure. And I mean, podcasts right now are just so popular. And now when you have something that really everyone is still talking about, it's fresh in everybody's minds. This is really going to be something where I think a lot of people will be able to take away from something, even if they had nothing to do with being around D.C. or never been to D.C. themselves. You know it's your own U.S. Capitol, and you have a special feeling right there. Lindsay, tell us where people can find this podcast as well.
If you go to our website right now, fox5dc.com, you will find a story. Just scroll down to the podcast section of the website, and then there's a lot of different options where you can click, but you can find this wherever you typically get your podcasts, whether it be iTunes or Spotify or SoundCloud, but you should be able to find it. The podcast is called Siege on Democracy, and again, it's out now. It's available. Another new episode out next Wednesday, and that one is also amazing. I mean, it really looks very in depth about what police went through. In that impeachment video, you saw some of the horrible assaults on police, and so we talked to 2 officers who were assaulted that day, and it's riveting and very heart-wrenching. So hopefully people will check it out, and I'd love to know what people think about it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think this event is something where it's an onion, and you're still pulling so many layers off, and we really haven't got all of the details or the insight about what happened. So having a podcast like this, really interesting, and it's going to offer a lot of insight for people that just want to know a little bit more about the event and the terrible stuff that happened. So how many episodes do you think you guys are going to have planned in all?
That's a good question. So it is a work in progress. The second episode, we're just finishing that today. It'll be out, as I mentioned, next Wednesday. And then I'm working on the third episode, where I spoke to a woman who was just arrested last week. She's charged in this riot, so she was very candid. So we'll have that third episode, and I'm hoping for, my ideal is maybe 6 episodes that we'll do every single week, and then from there, I want to continue with it. It would be a little more fluid, and we kind of put out more episodes as we get more great content. And I definitely want to hear what people think about this and what they want to hear about and know about, because it's not something that we've finished. It's not totally done, and we're just putting it out week by week. I mean, it's a work in progress. And so I'm very excited to kind of get the feedback, and that will help drive the future episodes.
Oh, sure. Now, Lindsay, I got to ask you, what did you think yesterday of Representative Jamie Raskin? I mean, he had some just emotional testimony there at the end of when they were wrapping up their first day. To have that in your own backyard, and to hear the things that he was witnessing inside there, what was going on through your mind there?
So Jamie Raskin is our representative here in Maryland. I live in Maryland, so I have spoken to him before, and just a really stand-up guy, and he lost his adult son to suicide not long before this happened. And then you heard him talk about his daughter being with him there in the Capitol that day, and what they went through after both of them had experienced. I mean, you can't imagine the horror of losing a family member in such an unexpected way, and the stress that you go through, and then to have to be in that situation. So I think knowing more about him, you feel even more compassion for what he experienced and what he went through. And he obviously is very busy right now with the impeachment, but we are working on talking to him, and hopefully when this is all over with, he will be part of our podcast as well. And what he experienced is just so tragic.
Yeah, it's tragic in so many ways, and what a dark day in our history there, January 6th, the insurrection on the U.S. Capitol. Lindsay, one more time for people, maybe they just starting to tune in right now, where can they find this podcast?
The podcast is called Siege on Democracy. So you can go to Spotify, you can go to Apple Podcasts and search that title. If you go to our website, fox5dc.com, and you just scroll down, you'll see the podcast section. You can click on the story and actually listen to the podcast right there if you're not really familiar with listening to podcasts on other forums. And you can search me out on social media, Lindsay Watts. I've shared the link on all of my platforms today. So I hope people will seek it out and give it a listen. And like I said, let me know what you think. I'm really interested in the feedback.
Yeah, this is going to be something I'm going to be definitely listening to today after work as well. Lindsay Watts from Fox 5 DC, thank you so much, and best of luck on this podcast as well. This is really going to be something. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
All right, folks, you can continue to bring the very latest right here on News Now from Fox, everybody. Live look right now inside of the Capitol. We are just about 15 minutes away from day 2 of the impeachment trial. We'll be bringing you in its entirety right here on News Now from Fox. Let's take another quick 2-minute break here for some of you. You're watching News Now. In the meantime, for those of you that are watching with us here, we always appreciate that. Let's go out to a confirmation hearing for the OMB director here.
To go to environmental justice communities, those who have been left behind before, those who are suffering transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy. And how will you envision OMB's role in tracking that and targeting that